One of the biggest mistakes when it comes to power scaling mechanics is when a writer accidentally breaks their own story. And you've probably seen it happen before in either comics or in manga, to the point where a character is so overpowered, the writer themselves have to contradict the rules that they have established within the universe that they have created. And the only solution is to create an even more overpowered character in hopes of course correcting that said combat mechanic. Now, that's something that I really want to avoid when it comes to the Venus Orion Comics universe, when it comes to my combat and power scaling mechanics. I want my combat to feel strategic, psychological, unpredictable, where even the strongest character can still lose because they either lack skill, awareness, and don't fully understand how to tap into their powers correctly. And that philosophy has become the foundation of my universal combat and power scaling mechanic called the Wave Force. And in this video, I want to just give you a surface level explanation behind how the Wave Force mechanic works within the Venus Orion Comics universe. One thing I've always loved about anime and manga is how unique and different each power system is. Dragon Ball uses Ki, Naruto uses Chakra, Hunter x Hunter uses Nen, JoJo has Hamon and later stands. Each series has its own rules, limitations, and mechanics, and usually the best fights happen when characters take advantage of those rules creatively, not just through raw strength. But the problem is, not every system is balanced forever. Sometimes characters can become so overwhelming that the writer has to keep escalating power endlessly in order to just maintain tension. And once that happens, strategy slowly begins to disappear. Every battle becomes bigger blast, bigger transformation, bigger numbers. Now, don't get me wrong, I still enjoy a lot of those in series, but while building Venus Orion Comics, I wanted to build combat much differently. So in the Venus Orion Comics universe, the core power system is called Wave Force. At the center of the universe exists something called the Wave Source, a collective well of consciousness and energy that all living things are connected to. Life itself flows through it, and when living beings die, their essence eventually returns to the source. Now, even though all living things are connected to the wave source, it doesn't mean that all living beings attune to it equally. And this is where the distinction begins. Now, here's where things get a bit interesting, because if you read Varian Keller's Vampire Killers Chapter 1 that released last year, then you have already gotten a glimpse of the Wave Force mechanics without even noticing it. And now I'm about to fill you in with a bit of context, because in VK Chapter 1, after the incident that took place in Jasmine Mitchell's apartment, Hezekiah mentioned something that was quite interesting, that he felt pressure, that something, a force, was lurking around Jasmine Mitchell's apartment. But here's where things get a little bit more bizarre. The thing is, Hezekiah Draven felt the pressure, but Jasmine Mitchell had no idea what the hell he was talking about. And this is what separates the two from one another. See, Hezekiah is what is called in my universe a gifted individual, someone that is attuned to the universe and its consciousness itself, where they are able to tap into their essence or wave essence, which is the soul. While someone like Jasmine Mitchell herself is considered an ordinary person who is not much in tune with the universe and its consciousness itself. So ordinary people like Techlock, Denzel will also fit in that category themselves. Not because they're weak, but because they can't harness or tap into their wave essence like a gifted individual such as Hezekiah can. Every living being possesses something called the wave essence, which is essential to the soul itself. And when a gifted person draws from their wave essence, it circulates throughout their body, creating something known as wave flow. The stronger and more refined the flow becomes, the stronger the outward force is created from it. This force is known as wave pressure. Wave pressure is important because stronger individuals can literally feel the presence of other powerful beings around them. That's what Hezekiah sensed in Chapter 1, and you will get an introductory to the Wave Force mechanics found in Varian Keller's Vampire Killers Chapter 2, which will release next year in 2027, and you'll see how Hezekiah himself explains how the mechanics work on a surface level. Now, the important thing isn't about power itself, it's the balance. I never wanted a system to where raw strength automatically determines every outcome. But because in real battle, knowledge matter, adaptation matters, experience matters, and creativity matters the most. Some characters may have a stronger wave force, but weaker combat instincts. Others may have lower raw power, but better understanding of how to utilize it. This creates interesting matchups and more believable outcomes. Individuals who can harness their wave force can perform abilities known as wave arts, and these abilities manifest much differently depending on the individual, their consciousness, their talents, and how they interact with the wave source itself. Which means no two fighters are necessarily the same. They're not created equal. Okay, so stay with me here. If you have ever visited my website at VenusOrionComics.com, you notice a tab that says Paragons of Fate, which has a list of my characters that's been uploaded over time. If you click on it, you notice that there is a bio of each character, and there's an attribute called Wave Signature. And this is where the real balance in the wave force mechanics begin to really show itself and shine the most. Because in the Venus Orion Comics universe, every living being, when they are born, they are aligned to one of three signatures known as the Trinity Wave Signature. And these three signatures are called Essentia, Verus, and Nullum. They represent life, chaos, and nothingness. And each one exists in opposition of the other. Essentia dominates Nullum, Nullum dominates Verus, and Verus dominate Essentia. This creates a constant balance between the three. Now, I also want to make this clear. This doesn't guarantee victory between characters during matchups, because as I said before, what's more important is how each character utilizes their skills and their talents and how they can outsmart the other opponent. A weaker fighter doesn't automatically win because they are aligned to a signature that dominates their opponents, but it does create compatibility shifts during battle, which allows strategy, adaptation, and matchup knowledge to matter just as much as raw strength. Even though all living beings are tied to the Trinity Wave Signature, what happens if there are characters or individuals who doesn't fall into the wave force mechanics at all? And one prime example of that are aberrants, which we'll definitely explore in Ultra Squad X, but there's a reason for it. And how will they interact with characters who abide by the wave force mechanics? And that will be discussed in a later video, because there are more layers to this, and I want you guys to be able to discover it as you read each comic book series. But there are plenty of living beings out there who don't fall into that classification of gifted, but much rather have abilities that are outside of it, but still able to interact with those characters that abide by the wave force mechanics. And there is a complete balance around that, and you'll soon find out much later. Now, despite the wave force mechanics, I'm not saying that there won't ever be any overpowered character, but if there are going to be overpowered characters, there's a reason for it as far as the story is concerned and what is the narrative is trying to establish when it comes to that raw power. So I know there's people out there that loves characters that are extremely powerful. So I don't want you to get that confused at all, that there won't be any overpowered characters, but it's always tied to a cause or for narrative reasons why this character is at this pinnacle of power. That makes sense. What makes the wave force mechanic interesting to me is the fact is that everything is tied to the universe itself. Spiritual consciousness, the soul, life cycles, reality, and human evolution itself. And different series found throughout Phase 1, The Foundation, will explore those mechanics from different sides and perspectives. Where we have VK, which explores the supernatural side of things. And of course, Ultra Squad X explore individuals outside those wave force mechanics. And Adrenaline explore frequency itself. The Church of Elohim, which is one of the most important factions found in the Venus Orion Comics universe, will definitely step into the spiritual aspect of it, which is why VK, Varion Killer's Vampire Killers, is very important, because this is where the Church of Elohim is first introduced. So while all the stories exist in the same universe, they each reveal different layers of the same system. This is only the surface level of how my power scaling mechanics work in the Venus Orion Comics universe. There are still deeper mechanics, subclasses, special conditions, advanced wave arts, and other systems that exist outside the traditional wave force mechanics. But I want readers to naturally discover these ideas by reading the comics themselves, because I believe the mystery is what makes the power system fun in the first place. So let me ask you, what is your favorite power system in anime, manga, comics, and fiction itself? So let me know in the comment section below. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure to hit the subscribe button, the notification bell for more story development and behind the scenes content of what it's like to be an indie comic creator, building an entire universe from scratch. So I'll see you guys in another video. This is Brian Howard Blackson Jr. signing off.